Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. This is our second conversation, and as we mentioned before the break, it's all about highlighting Harold Young's launch of Political Voices in Belize. We have it right here. Heavy. Paul, tell me how it feels.
I don't know if this one left this room or...
I know. I'll tell you, there are many people trying to get their hands on this book. Even during the break, I saw you even get purchased already.
Yes. Behind the scenes.
Why not? Why not? That's to show how much this is a valuable piece of resource.
I agree.
Harold, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. And welcome. Thank you, Belize, for having me on here and put this forward. Yeah.
Now, I know that this has been in the works for quite some time. You've been working on this book. But for persons who might not be aware of a little bit of your background and who you are, give us a brief overview of your connection to the political conversations that are taking place every single day. We have utilized your expertise. You would remember on our show last year called Power
to the people for the elections.
Power and the people.
Power and the people.
Yes. So your political expertise has been invaluable. And of course, I imagine we will be seeing this in this production as well. Tell us a bit about your background and your work in politics.
So by training, I'm a political scientist, but my interest in politics goes back when the day I was born. No, I'll talk about that. But politics and history are intertwined, and that's really the basis of my interest and my excitement.
Yeah.
And so that's the really basis of the work and all the work I do now. So this is my third book. This is my first full book about Belize. And so in working on projects before this, it started out with being asked by somebody to write something about Sir Harrison Courtney. And then when I looked at that, when I did that research, I discovered that the Queen versus Price sedition trial 1958 was involved. Do you all know what that is? Queen. There you go. So that was the first point, and I was like, okay, I didn't know much about it either.
Yeah.
So the upshot is that it led from that to me wanting to write an article about the sedition trial, and then I realized there wasn't a lot of modern political history written. There are books out there, they are there, and I talk about that, but there wasn't a lot. So I thought there was a void in writings, especially by Belizeans.
Yeah, about Belize.
And about Belize, about modern politics in Belize. So that's where the project started. I was going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I decided I would write it based on a lot of interviews by people. So I had a list of about 50 people I was going to interview. When I did the first two, I realized that I didn't need to get between the interviews and the reader. That the interviews themselves were absolutely excellent, interesting, and the people were really sharing and being honest. So I decided, no, people need to read these interviews exactly as they're said.
Yeah. That means that you got some really good conversations.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I curated the list from 50 to 12. Some were added, some were taken out, and to give the balance. And then I interviewed these 12 people and then put them. So each chapter is an interview.
So we're going to get a little bit further into the details of the chapters and what people can expect. I just want to quickly say how much I appreciate you for the work that you did here, Harold, because I think I represent a younger voice and a younger mind who was not present or would not be able to remember a lot of these things, at least that would have taken place in Belize politically. And so now being in this profession that I am in, it's still important that I know what took place. So having resources like this makes it so much easier than going about and Googling and running through so many different articles and documents. I am excited for people who might have been there and can compare their experience with what other people would have experienced as well. But even young minds, I'm encouraging young people in particular to get a hand on the book. Read something this year in 2026. Now let's dive into it. The 12 interviews that you chose out of 50. Before we even get to that 12, what were key questions that you wanted to get answers to, and are there specific events in Belize's political history that you wanted to also talk about and highlight?
Absolutely. So when you read each interview, you will learn the arc of each person's connection from their life to how they got into politics.
Okay.
Which is important, right? What made them go into politics. So you get that arc. The other arc is linking some of the earlier people involved in politics from the late 60s, which was a very pivotal time for Belize. So linking that through independence to today. So we start off with people like you could, is like Asad Shuman and Said Musa were activists in the late 60s. So they were linked to that. Then UBAD was involved, so which was also really important. UBAD was a very important pivotal organization and time for when they were very active in Belize. And then underlining all that is how we get to independence, what led to that. And then also how the conversation in Belize changed. Some of the interviews talk about that, how the conversation in politics changed, then the formation of the UDP, how that happened, how that linked to the competition, if you want to call it, rivalry with the PUP, and then how that's linked to big events like each election, G7, things like that, right? So how is it linked?
Just a full blanketed.
It doesn't cover every single thing, and it's not but it gives a nice arc that leads you right through. And then the age groups of the interviewees also helps.
Okay.
So the younger people, like Jules, for example, Jules Vasquez is one, right? And Audrey Wallace, their arc shows what politics was like in their youth while Assad and Said were adults. And Henry Young, they were adults in politics. And these two were young people, how they saw that. And then their arc into politics. So you get a nice linkage as you go through, and they're rooting in their political families, because they came from very political families, right? And so you get a nice joining, nice arc through the whole thing.
How much of these interviews would you say were eye-opening to you, and perhaps removed the curtain to look behind some of the issues that really happened, to get the details that you wouldn't necessarily get on the news, or have the discussions that you wouldn't necessarily have in public, but now they're way more open to having those conversations?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, because as I said, after the first two interviews I did, I'll just tell you who the first interviews were. I picked what I call the low-hanging fruit. There were people that I knew I had access to, that had, so they were both retired at the time, which is Said Musa and Ralph Fonseca. They were already retired, they started in 2024. So they were fairly easy to get to set it up.
Right.
So what I found out is that they, in talking, I recorded the interviews. I had a recording. I didn't write anything. I recorded it and then transcribed it.
Okay.
So I was able to listen without having to write, listen to what they were saying. And I was challenged by each interview, all 12, my entire repertoire of political history to keep up with what they were saying and try to follow what they were saying, to follow up with the questions. Because I didn't go in with a set of like 100 questions. I had some themes I wanted to touch on, but I let them lead what they wanted to say and let them lead me.
But you have to know what you know.
I had to. I came out, I was exhausted after each one.
I could imagine.
I was exhausted after each one.
Also because you're going with doing your own research, but also speaking to people and hearing their own interpretations of different historical periods.
So there is one portion, if you don't mind, and then you could add context to this for us young people, right?
Please.
So there's this one. This is an interview with Said Musa, and you marked it. So I'm just going.
I didn't hear. Okay, go ahead.
So there's this part where, there's two parts. Maybe the second part I'll have us focus on, but I just wanted to bring this part. So he said, so this is, he's talking about a meeting in cabinet. So, no, he says, so how long? That's, Said Musa. And he proceeded to undermine me, of course, right? Then you say, that's just where I was going. How do you rub salve in a wound like that? And Said Musa says, I tried to do it through the cabinet. And then you said, yeah. And he said, I tried to talk to them in the cabinet, I think there was a lot of deception going on and undermining. And I knew certain things were being fed to Jules Vasquez by Marcus Pat. And I think after every cabinet meeting, Jules got the full bill and receipt. So Said Musa is laying it all on the table, right? So he said, okay. And he said, we got put where nothing could be discussed. You couldn't discuss anything in private or confidentially, yes. Then he said that's a difficult environment to work in. But then here, you asked him about the G7. What effect did the G7 division have on Belizean politics and life? It's a really good question to ask Mr. Musa. And he said, all that caused a major erosion of people's confidence. Something he definitely wouldn't admit at the time, right? And you said, so what did they want you to do? And he said, quite candidly, so they wanted me to get rid of him, Ralph Fonseca, completely. Well, they wanted me to get rid of him completely, and so I knew and moved him out from being in charge of the economy.
Wow.
But this gives you some insight. Talk a bit about what was happening at this time.
Did you give a truth elixir to
so a lot of when they said things, I kind of went,
yes! All you were saying is, that must have been a terrible environment. What? I would have been reeling.
There were many moments like that with almost everybody that had something, at least one or two things to say that I kind of pulled back at. That's one of the exciting things. Two things I'll say. You are hearing, when you read the interviews, and let me say one quick thing first. This book is 537 pages, right? I gather that. But you don't have to read it in sequence. If you're interested in a particular interview, you can read that.
Okay.
They're not linked in that sense. But what does happen is that you get different versions of the same event. Right?
And that's why I was speaking about interpretations.
Right. You get different versions of the same event. And then the other big difference is there are people who are interviewed who are out of office. At this time, Said Musa is out of office, but they have people who are in office. So you can see some of the differences between the things that they say, right?
Yes.
So interview with Prime Minister Briceño will sound different quite differently from an interview with Said Musa. Not that Briceño wasn't honest, but he's in that constraint of being
He's still
live politics, right? He's still
in
involved.
Political life.
But he was actually really good too. He talked about the interesting things as well. And of course, then Dolores Balarabas Garcia is the same thing. She's actually in politics right now. So they sound different, from each other, but they still give very, very interesting perspectives on things. And I think that the audience will really, the readers will really enjoy some of the things that come out.
Who did you enjoy interviewing the most?
I think, I enjoyed all of them, and I don't mean that to just be, and I enjoyed them for different reasons. I think probably the most fun interview to do was Michael Finnegan.
I'm literally there right now. Yeah. I am literally there right
probably
now.
Probably the most fun one, right?
Yes.
He's a really great guy, great character, and very colorful.
Yes.
He was good. The other part, I enjoyed Amon Courtney because I think people will be very surprised by his interview as well.
Really?
Yes.
In what way?
He's very academic in speaking
that's
most
how
of
he
the time.
appears. That's how he presents himself in public. But I found that he was very candid about things when I asked him about it. I think you'll see another person, a different layer to him.
So what do you think then it was about your interview or your interviewing skill that allowed these persons to present themselves so candidly to you? Because as Paul mentioned, some of these people, when we interact with them, it's a different type of personality that we would get. So
the interviews were done mainly at their homes.
Okay.
And it's just the two of us. It was just two people. There weren't any witnesses. I wasn't taking pictures.
Okay.
Right? And I think I might have just been, I don't want to overplay this part, but I might have just been the right person at the right time because they know me.
Yeah.
Everybody knew me. They know, I didn't have to explain my background. I wasn't a stranger I might have had some nefarious agenda to trap them or expose something that they, So, and I told everybody, if you want to tell me something for context of what you're saying, but you don't want that included, you just want me to have a better feel for what you're saying, you can do that. I will respect that and I will not print that.
Okay.
I will not include that. I made that very clear from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That they were free to share and tell me, don't include that. I was giving you that for the context of what I'm saying, so you understand. And so that was, I think that was very important. I might have just been the right person at the right time for this. And I will single out Ralph Fonseca for that, because of course he passed away like 6 months later, right? At the time he was up and at his desk. I was in his office at his home. So that I was very, very honored and very happy that I got to get that done with him.
Would this be a book that would be useful for people to get an overview understanding of Belize's political landscape, just with fresh pair of eyes? If they don't understand, if they want to be able to put certain situations that are taking place in further context that is happening on the news, to link it to things that happened in the past, would this be a book that would be useful for that?
I'll say a couple of things on that. First of all, I think today the Belize-Guatemala issue, or their ridiculous claim to Belize, it's present, but I don't think everybody gets the significance, how significant it was in the political development of Belize. And the book really highlights that it underpins everything that went on, right? And you can hear it from in the 60s with Assad and Said coming back from the UK and having a attitude towards it that was different than the generation before them. And then people who were younger at the time, like, Amon and John Briseño and Jules and Audrey, how they viewed it as teenagers and then how it evolved into their life as adults. The other important thing is the overwhelming and incredible influence that George Price had on politics. He's kind of sanitized, and I don't mean it in a bad way, because I'm not saying I want dirt on him, but he's kind of sanitized in his iconic way right now, and that's fine. He's a national hero, father of the nation, but he was quite a person, a personality. I mean, in politics, he was not somebody to be tired with, not to play around with him. He was very, very serious. And his influence on everybody that we talked to there was either on the line or implicit or explicit. It was either explicit or implicit. And his name is the most mentioned name by anybody. By all people together, he's mentioned more than anybody else.
Wow.
Yeah. So I like this part with Eamon Courtney, because so I'll just a little bit of this part where you asked him. So that brings me to a final major area of discussion. If you could focus on one or two things, if you had your way, what political reforms would you adopt? You've already spoken about the abuse of discretionary power. That's interesting. And the need to close that loophole in the law, right? And he lists many things, but one I find very interesting has to do with the Auditor General. In their interview with him, he said, I would take a look at the whole Auditor General and auditing of public accounts. It's a serious issue, and everybody focuses on the Auditor General, and rightly so, but she's not, or he's not, the only problem. The Accountant General must prepare the public accounts. The Accountant General must ensure that accounts of the government are kept according to financial order. People open public accounts any day without permission. People move money in and out of government accounts without any regulations. Therefore, government accounts cannot be prepared for them to be audited. So one blames the Auditor General, whereas the finance officers in the ministries who are appointed because of who they know politically don't understand the financial orders and do not present the right accounting reports to the Auditor General so that the report can be generated. So there's a lot more.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's part of what you.
Yeah, it's very candid.
Why I mentioned
Yeah.
Elon, because, and of course everybody knows him, but a very no nonsense
Yes.
person, right?
Yeah.
So that probably doesn't surprise some people.
Yeah.
But he would say it on record is interesting too. Yeah, I think one of the things that I want people to take away from the book
Yes, tell me.
is that I can't speak for everybody who has gone into public office. I could never do that, right? But I think the majority of people, and definitely these people that I interviewed, went into politics with good intentions. With legitimate, different backgrounds, of course, right? Because some came from extremely political public parties, but went in with good intentions. And what they encountered, and a number of them discussed it, what they encountered was a friction between their ideals and their intentions and their goals and what the party wants.
So that is to say that politicians are good by intent, but by nature they align to the
But
political.
not by nature, because not everybody gave in to the party's influence. Some people did. Some people left politics because of it. Right? Some people stepped aside because they did not want to deal with that aspect of it. And some people were able to walk that balance, right? But it's a very interesting friction that internally.
Yeah.
So we get the impression, and I say that because sometimes we say, oh, these politicians, they're just all thieves and they have no conscience, but it's really not true.
It's so interesting that you said that, because we were having a conversation just this morning about
the BTL issue.
the BTL
Julius
issue, Julius Espat
position.
you know, essentially saying that his party, through the Northern Caucasus meeting over the weekend, is politicizing the BTL SpeedNet acquisition, which on the surface, you'd think, why would you say that? Because it goes against, you know, your party. However, as a politician and as an individual,
As a person,
his intent
as a
as a
person.
person.
Yeah, so you
It's
can
a
see,
do-good.
Yes.
So you see that that's a very important dynamic.
Yeah.
And it will never go away. It will always be there, right? It's how does it play out? That's important. The other thing when you asked about, I want to say about, and this is probably my one, I would say disappointment, because I kind of knew, but the one thing I would say that wasn't the strongest aspect of people's interviews was I asked all of them that question about what constitutional reform, what reform would you do. I asked all of them the same question,
good.
right? And overall, the responses varied from basically nothing to fairly substantial things. I was not generally impressed with how they viewed the system.
But you spoke to Prime Minister as well.
All of them.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'm interested to see what he said.
That point I want to say is important, not just as a critique from me, but because when I did the first draft of the book, when I finished the whole thing and I gave it to the editor, she went through it, Melissa Espat,
Okay.
right? She went through it, and after a few meetings with her, she said, well, but we don't know what you think. We don't know what you make of what they say. You have a summary and you have that, but you don't give your... So I wrote a whole new chapter.
Nice.
Ironically, chapter 13, right? Which is very political sciencey, nerdy. But that's where I discuss this thing about how do we make the system better.
Right.
How do we improve the system, right?
That's
and some of the problems we have, challenges, not just Belize, all countries, in changing the system, in fundamentally altering it. So I found that most of the things that they said were not fundamental. Even Eamon's comment about the auditor, that's not fundamental to the structure, how the structure works, how people are elected, the relationship between elected officials and the voters or the public. That doesn't change that fundamentally. That's important, but don't change it fundamentally.
Because when you're in the game, you're not thinking about the fundamentals. Essentially, you're thinking about what's practical and what's practical in the moment.
In the moment,
and
right,
for the
right,
season.
right.
And so the fundamentals get thrown out the door until you take a step back and look at
Right.
it with 2020 vision. We do have to wrap up the conversation, however. So when does the book launch? Political Voices in Belize. When does it
The
launch?
interviewers.
The interview.
Yeah.
I think that's critical
Yeah,
because
the
that really
interviews.
defines
Yeah.
what the book is about.
Yeah, so I'm launching on Thursday the 5th
Okay.
at 6 o'clock at the House of Culture out there. And it's open to everybody. It's not, there's no, anybody can come. I'll be do signings and books will be on sale. They're $100, Belize, for the book. And I invite anybody to come. I will do a presentation as well, but some of the other people will speak. If you look at the back, there are people who reviewed and made a contribution.
April Martinez stands out.
Nice,
So
nice.
I'm going to have a couple of them talk
Yes.
about their review, their impressions of the book.
Will this be available online for any of the?
Eventually, it's published here, printed and published in Belize. So maybe on Amazon eventually, but I will in not too distant future make it available on 501.
All right, good. Well, we're being asked
And I'm
to
hoping
wrap up.
schools will use it. I'm really hoping schools will use it, and
Yeah.
But I encourage people to engage with it. It's more than just politics. Let me say one more thing, a very important thing. Each chapter is followed by 4 or 5 pages, sometimes 6 or 7, of footnotes. And what the footnotes do is give you more context to what the person is saying. So if the person mentions Miss So-and-so, you can look at the footnote and see who that person is. Because
Okay.
a lot of people contributed to these people's lives and to the political that are unsung. So those people get mentions in there.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning and bringing us a taste of Political Voices in Belize.
The
interview
interviews.
launched on Thursday, 5th of February, 2026 at 6 p.m., the House of Culture. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you all.
All right, we take a quick break now, but don't go anywhere. Our next conversation is all about becoming the picture of possibility for aspiring entrepreneurs.